And recording.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Abby Stamp. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the executive director for Measure 110. And I'll be assisting Keisha with facilitation for today's meeting. The Oversight and Accountability Council welcomes and encourages community input. Members of the public are invited to submit public comments or to get on our interested parties email list by emailing oha.measure110@oha.oregon.gov. That email address and more information about the council can be found on the Measure 110 OAC website. OAC members have asked that OHA and other staff who are present in the meeting space introduce themselves in the chat. Please share your role with the agency, and if you are a subject matter expert, your area of expertise. I'll now turn it over to Keisha for opening remarks.
Hey, good afternoon,
Oh, you are.
everyone.
Hi, Keisha. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So the agenda is Hood River County burn funding decision. Um, and also, wait, I think, is that the only thing we have today?
Yes.
On the Hood River burn funding decision. All right, so we can get rolling and maybe get some time back. Let me pass it over to Carly for attendance.
Thank you, Keisha. Ami.
Here.
Hi. Amy. Is she still connected? Okay, she may need to jump back in. Caroline?
Here.
Hey, Caroline. Thank you for joining. Sorry about that link. Dharma? And Huber is going to be a little late. Hunter?
Here.
Hi, Hunter. Jackie?
Here.
Hi, Jackie. Leticia? I think I missed you, but I can see you. Linda?
Here.
Hi, Linda. Mason? Melissa? Morgan? Ryan?
Here.
Hey, Ryan. Sabrina?
I'm here.
Hi, Sabrina. Zeb?
I'm here.
Hi, Zeb. Sam? Sorry, Sam, did you answer me? I might have cut out. I will come back. Annalise?
Here.
Hi, Annalise. And we have quorum at 12, and I'll mark Sam down.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Amy's here.
Oh, hi, Amy. Back to you, Keisha.
All right. We're about to have the Hood River County burn funding. Pass it over to Abby.
Thank you, Keisha. Carly, are you able to screen share for us today? Great. Oh,
Yes.
actually, while you're figuring that out, so I can still see everybody before y'all disappear. Um, we got flagged a few weeks ago that the Office of OCMP, Office of Contracts and Procurement, had missed an application from a Hood River existing provider. It's the CMHP, Mid-Columbia Center for Living. And they reached out and they're like, hey, whatever happened to Hood River? And then I asked OCMP and they found it. So we have been proceeding with the existing and consistent process for completing, reviewing, rating, panel reviewing each individual applicant and Two folks reviewed the material, the application from the provider, Mid-Columbia Center for Living, and both reviewers, it was myself and one other person, recommended all 6 service areas for funding. So you'll see it all green because we're system when it comes up. I'll explain that in a minute. And then the panel review, Jason Hall and Sahand graciously facilitated the panel review meeting on Monday, and it was moved forward for funding for you all. So you're probably thinking, that's great, Abby. How are you going to pay for that? Well, I have a solution. So we'll get to that when we get into the slides, but I wanted to just set the context for what you'll see on the screen. Any questions before I start? Okay, great. Oh, and Carly, I note Sam is here, notes herself as here in the chat. Awesome, great. Thank you, Sam. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here is a summary of the Mid-Columbia Center for Living in Hood River County. Their grand total for their application was almost $2.7 million. And here are the grand totals for their screening, assessment, SUD services, peer support, housing, and harm reduction, and a small program cost at $8,000. And you can see the biggest investment is in peer support and some modest investments in harm reduction, which was basically naloxone, housing, and SUD, and then also ensuring covering screening and assessment for the burn in Hood River County. That was their application. Can we go to the next slide, please? And so if you all recall, let me back up for a second. If you'll recall last week, we did a revote for Washington County because of the error we made on my. And Sam, with her creative problem solving and resources, was able to locate $2.8 million to ensure a robust harm reduction service area for Washington County as a whole. And we were able to use the federal SUD block grant funds. Sam, just to make sure that everything was covered, actually allocated to the Drug Treatment and Recovery Services Fund, your Cannabis Tax Revenue Fund, $3 million whole, flat, whatever, on the dot, to give us a little wiggle room. And so there's $200,000 remaining of those funds. So that's the first line here as you're looking at funding options for Mid-Columbia Center for Living. We also, in our negotiating 233 award letters and grant agreements, found an error in one of the intent to award letters where the number was too inflated and the provider was like, whoa, this is wrong. We don't need this much money, which was the most amazing conversation to have with somebody that wait, there's a little bit of, I don't want to say extra, but unallocated funds. And we knew that we were dealing with Washington County and that there might be some other errors that were unpacked. And so for that Drug Treatment Recovery Services Fund error in that letter, that was $1,042,053. So if you add those two resources together, you've got, it's a strange number, but it's the number we've got. We've got $1,242,053 for potentially to have the OAC use at your discretion. And that's what perhaps is available for Mid-Columbia. And we can talk about that. Carly, can you pop to the next slide, please? So what I did is I went back and looked at the methodology that you all voted to use when we met at the end of March. We met March 26th and 28th, and I used the same format so it would look familiar to everybody. And I wanted to go over for you Mid-Columbia Center for Living's role in Hood River County, their past grant dollar amounts, and an offering to you all if you would like to move forward with funding this organization with the remaining funds. Excuse me. So I'm going to start from the left. The burn partner is Mid-Columbia Center for Living. They're highlighted that orange color because they are an existing provider in Hood River County. Their total grant from the last grant cycle was $950,000. They had no capital projects. And so the light green, 22 to 25 per year, is really what Mid-Columbia Center for Living, or MCCFL, was functioning as an operating budget for the last grant cycle. So it's about $317,000. If you take the grand total of 1.242 million and divide that by 4, which is our new grant cycle, you all would be able, if you choose to fund MCCFL just below their existing operational, I'll use that term lightly, budget from last year of $310,000 a year. So it's a little less, but it is absolutely about the average, right? We were looking at the change in awards from the first grant cycle to the second grant cycle, and this is just it's slightly less, and it does take into consideration at least the reduced tax funding. So, Carly, is there another slide? And I saw your note, and I'll interrupt myself in a minute. Thank you for helping me stay on track. I think, is that no, there's just a motion. Yeah, okay. So before we engage in conversation about this provider, I first want to ask if there are any conflicts, potential conflicts of interest or actual conflicts of interest with MCCFL, Mid-Columbia Center for Living, or Hood River County providers as a whole, which includes one moment, please, while I pull up the entire county of Hood River, which would be One Community Health, Providence, Boulder Care, and Eastern Oregon Center for Independent Living. Are there any actual or potential conflicts of interest before we proceed? Okay, great. Thank you. So before we wanted to put together a motion to see if anybody would be interested in moving forward with that. But before we do so, are there any comments or discussion or questions before we move forward, Hunter?
So can you go back to the last slide, please? So from what I'm seeing is, although this isn't their entire ask for this round of funding, this does keep them at just about $6,400 less a year operating for the next 4 years. So in the interest of keeping agencies that we stood up, at least these services, continuity of services going through, I think this is pretty ideal. And I want to say thank you, Abby and the team, for getting these numbers here to us to present to those, and for all the work that went on behind the scenes. But I think that with some of the problems we had with agencies worried that they were going to have to stop their services and all the things, I think this fixes that well. And I think that, of course, I would like to hear what the rest of the council has to say, but I would be comfortable going forward with a motion at these numbers here.
Nisha?
Yeah, it's kind of, well, because we had some concerns when we reviewed them the other day, but it doesn't really, I think our concerns are off the table with this amount that you're proposing anyway. That's just all I was gonna say.
Okay, thank you, Keisha. And because I wasn't there, please feel free, anybody who was at the panel review, to discuss any of those concerns that were presented. And while folks are thinking about how you want to contribute to that, I do want to share that as you see, Mid-Columbia asked for 2.7, and this is less than half of that. And so, we've been in this negotiations process, and as you all voted, we are working with providers and entities to make sure that they offer in response through the negotiations whatever service areas work for them. And lots of folks are dropping service areas because they have to. And folks are also reducing their milestones because they have to. So we're not sure what Mid-Columbia will come back with. But I've got the rest of Hood River County up here on my other screen, and I'm not going to have an opinion. I just wanted to let you know that we just don't know what Mid-Columbia will come back with. Keisha, I see your hand is still up. Is that an old hand? No.
Yeah, I just you said to talk about anything that happened on the panel. I was just gonna say, it was just a concern around, the assessments portion. They had like, a whole MAC nursing team under assessments, but, um, with this proposal though, that goes back, I think that alleviates, the concern. So that was the only concern we really had. Everything else looked good.
Thanks, Keisha. And before I call on Sabrina, I'll share that your grant administrators have been doing an amazing job looking at the proposals, the service areas, the description, the updated budgets, and really making sure that they're circling back with providers if there are any concerns about their service areas not meeting the Oregon administrative rules and the requirements within each of the service areas. We're having quite a few back and forth with folks just to make sure that what they're offering complies with rule. So it's a good call out. Thanks, Keisha. Sabrina?
First of all, I just want to say I love that, Abby. So shout out to the team that's making sure we're following the rules before even negotiating the money. That sounds very hopeful. But I was wondering if we had a suggested motion, some suggested motion language, and then I'd just like to go ahead and move the motion. And if we have discussion, maybe we could do it after we get a second. I would like to propose a motion. I move to fund Mid-Columbia Center for Living in Hood River County at 1,242,000. I'm not going to say that. I'm trying to say that number. And for OHA to proceed with negotiations as soon as possible.
Second.
Second.
Right, so Sabrina moved, and I think there was a tie for a second between Keisha and Hunter.
I think I beat Hunter.
Okay, Keisha seconds.
She got me. She got me.
Any discussion?
Seeing no hands.
There's no hands. Okay, Carly, would you do a vote, please?
On me, how do you vote?
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Caroline,
Yes.
is Hubert here yet? Hunter,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Keisha,
Yes.
Leticia,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Sabrina, oh, she voted yes in the chat, and Zeb.
Yes.
That passes with 11.
If I may, Mason's here as well.
I wasn't able to catch the discussion. I just hopped on, but thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate your grace and partnership. It means a lot. That's the end of the agenda for today. Back to you, Keisha.
Right. I guess we will get our afternoon back on this beautiful day. Thank you all for attending and participating. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for your support today. And Hunter, I'll call you back.